Hi, it's Frank, and today we're going to be covering the North Carolina Hazmat Practice Test. This endorsement is required for any commercial driver who transports hazardous materials in amounts that require the vehicle to be placarded, or for those who transport any quantity of a high-risk material like a poison inhalation hazard, PIH. The test focuses on safety regulations, placarding rules, and emergency procedures unique to these loads. Let's get straight into the questions. When must a driver placard a vehicle transporting poison inhalation hazard material? When any amount of the material is being transported, any quantity of a PIH material is considered a high risk, triggering immediate placarding requirements. Let's continue. Where should shipping papers containing hazmat information be located when the driver is outside the vehicle? On the driver's seat or in a clearly visible holder on the driver's door. This ensures that emergency responders can quickly access critical information even if the driver is incapacitated. Moving on. A driver is transporting infectious substances, Class 6.2. Which other product must be loaded in a separate cargo compartment? Foodstuffs, feed, or any other edible material. This separation prevents the contamination of food, which could lead to illness. Time for the next question. What is the primary danger associated with mixing incompatible hazardous materials? The combination may release poisonous fumes, gases, or cause a violent reaction. Incompatible materials must be separated to prevent dangerous chemical reactions. Next up. When transporting a flammable liquid in a cargo tank, the driver must attend the vehicle when it is being loaded or unloaded. Federal regulations require the driver to be within 25 feet of a tank vehicle being filled or emptied, and to monitor the process. Let's continue. Which item is not required to be on the shipping paper for a hazardous material? The North Carolina State DOT number of the transporting company. Shipping papers require federal information like ID number, proper shipping name, class, and quantity, but not state-specific DOT numbers. Moving on. If you are hauling explosives, Class 1, and another placard is required, which general placard can be omitted? Dangerous. The dangerous placard is a general warning sign that can be omitted when a more specific placard, like one for explosives, is already displayed. Time for the next question. What must a driver do immediately if they discover the placards on the trailer are damaged and illegible? Stop the vehicle immediately in a safe location and correct the placarding deficiency before continuing. Placards must be clearly visible and legible at all times for the safety of the public and emergency responders. Next up, what are the three basic principles for minimizing exposure to radioactive materials? Time, distance, and shielding, TDS. Limiting the time near the source, increasing the distance from the source, and using appropriate shielding minimizes radiation exposure. Let's continue. If an oxidizer, Class 5 material spills, the primary hazard is the production of oxygen, which rapidly accelerates any existing fire. Oxidizers do not burn themselves, but they supply oxygen to a fire, making it burn much hotter and faster. Moving on. When transporting two different Table 1 materials, such as explosives A, Class 1.1, and poison gas, Class 2.3, what placarding rule applies? Both placards must be displayed. Table 1 materials are always required to be placarded regardless of the amount, and each must be displayed. Time for the next question. If a tire catches fire on a vehicle placarded for hazmat, what must be done before fighting the fire? Determine if the fire is too close to the hazardous material to safely extinguish. The driver must consult the shipping papers and the Emergency Response Guidebook, ERG, to assess the risk of the cargo before attempting to fight a fire. Next up, what color are the placards used for flammable liquids? Class 3. Red. The red color clearly signifies the high risk of fire. Let's continue. A driver must have a CDL with the hazmat endorsement if transporting a material that requires placarding, or if transporting any quantity of a poison inhalation hazard H material. PIH materials pose such a high danger that the endorsement is required for any amount. Moving on. When should you not park within 300 feet of a bridge or tunnel when transporting any placarded hazardous materials? This is a federal regulation designed to prevent a major incident in a restricted or high traffic area. Time for the next question. What is the safest way to load Class 8 corrosives with other materials? Separate them from foodstuffs and material Class 4, flammable solids, or Class 5, oxidizers, placards. Corrosives must be kept away from materials they could react dangerously with, as well as edibles they could contaminate. Next up, the Emergency Response Guidebook, ERG, is used to identify the hazmat ID number and provide initial guidance on responding to an incident. The ERG provides instructions for immediate safety actions in the event of a spill or leak. Let's continue. How must the basic description of a hazmat item appear on the shipping paper? In the order, ID number, proper shipping name, hazard class, and packing group. This exact sequence is required by the Hazardous Materials Regulations, HMR, to ensure clarity. Moving on. When carrying explosives in a flatbed trailer, the total cargo must be covered by a fire and water-resistant tarpaulin. This covering protects the explosive materials from weather and external sources of ignition. Time for the next question. What must a driver check on all hazmat packages before loading them? That all required labels are correctly affixed and the package shows no signs of leaking or damage. A damaged or leaking package must never be loaded onto the vehicle. Next up, if you are involved in an incident requiring placarding and you must leave the scene, where should you instruct the authorities to find the shipping papers? On the driver's seat or in a visible place on the door. The standard procedure ensures emergency responders can find the necessary information quickly. Let's continue. What is the purpose of a safe haven parking area? An approved location where placarded vehicles carrying certain high-risk materials like explosives can park unattended. These locations are specially designated and secured for hazardous materials. Moving on. Which two classes of hazardous materials are forbidden from being placed in the same transport vehicle? Materials known to react dangerously with each other, such as Class 1.1 and Class 7, or cyanides and acids. The segregation chart in the HMR dictates which classes cannot be mixed. Time for the next question. What is the minimum size requirement for a required placard? 10.8 inches square, 273 millimeters. Placards must be this specific size to ensure visibility at a safe distance. Next up, the hazard class for gasoline is Class 3, flammable liquid. Gasoline is highly combustible and falls into the flammable liquid category. Let's continue. What does the notation forbidden on a hazardous material table mean? The material cannot be transported by that mode of transportation, e.g. air, rail, or highway. The transportation of a forbidden material is prohibited under HMR rules. Moving on. Which hazard class is symbolized by an orange placard? Explosives, Class 1. The orange placard and its flame symbol are internationally recognized for explosives. Time for the next question. When transporting chlorine, a poison gas, which special requirement applies to the tires? The tires must be checked every 2 hours or 100 miles, whichever is less. This is an added safety measure for highly hazardous PIH materials to prevent a potential tire fire or blowout near the cargo. Next up, what should a driver do if a spill of flammable liquid occurs on the road during a stop? Park the vehicle, secure the scene, notify authorities immediately, and consult the ERG. The driver's first duty is to secure the safety of the area and alert emergency services. Let's continue. What is the correct way to identify a poison inhalation hazard, PIH, on a shipping paper? The notation poison inhalation hazard, or PIH, must follow the basic description. This ensures that the extreme danger of the material is clearly communicated on the paper. Moving on. What is the primary safety concern when transporting a cryogenic liquid, extremely cold liquid gas? The extremely low temperatures can cause severe injury, freezing, frostbite, or make common materials brittle. Cryogenic liquids are dangerous primarily due to their extreme cold. Time for the next question. The total weight of all non-placarded hazardous materials must be reviewed to see if placarding is required for materials found in Table 2, General Hazmat. Placarding is required for most Table 2 materials when the total weight exceeds 1,001 pounds. Next up, what must you do before entering a tunnel if placarded for certain high-hazard materials? Follow the specific route restrictions, which may forbid certain hazmat vehicles, and ensure the engine is operating correctly. Drivers must know and obey specific hazmat tunnel routing regulations. Let's continue. What must be displayed on the placard holder when placards are not required on a cargo tank used for flammable liquids? The identification number, UNNA number. Even without placards, the ID number must be visible on a cargo tank to identify the contents. Moving on. What is the required distance? A driver must stand back from a vehicle carrying explosives A, Class 1.1, during loading, unloading, 25 feet. This safety distance is required due to the extreme danger of the material. Time for the next question. When transporting materials that require the dangerous placard, the aggregate gross weight of all hazmat is 1,001 pounds or more. This is the threshold where the dangerous placard must be used if no single class triggers its own placard. Next up, what should a driver check for on the valves and fittings of a cargo tank carrying liquid hazmat during the trip? Check for leaks or signs of weeping seepage. Drivers must constantly monitor tank vehicles for leaks that could lead to a catastrophic spill. Let's continue. What is the proper procedure for a fueling stop with a placarded vehicle? Turn off the engine, ensure the parking brake is set, and remain at the fill point. Turning off the engine eliminates a potential ignition source, and remaining at the fill point ensures immediate control. Moving on, what is the only circumstance in which the dangerous placard is generally used? When 4 or more different Table 2 materials are required to be placarded. This is the mixed load rule, when no single class is dominant, but multiple classes are present. Time for the next question. If a driver is transporting hazmat and discovers a minor leak in a package, the driver should secure the package to prevent further leakage, reposition the material, and notify the carrier dispatcher. The driver must mitigate the hazard and seek guidance from the carrier before proceeding. Next up, which section of the ERG lists the materials in numerical order by ID number? The yellow bordered pages. This is the primary method responders use to look up a material by its UN/NA number. Let's continue. What is the main danger when mixing cyanides with strong acids? The production of deadly hydrogen cyanide gas. This is a severe poison hazard that emphasizes the importance of chemical segregation. Moving on. What is the maximum speed permitted for a vehicle placarded for explosives? The posted speed limit unless reduced by state local law, e.g. 50 miles per hour in certain areas. While generally the posted limit, state or local laws often impose a lower maximum speed for explosive cargoes. Time for the next question. If a driver loses the shipping papers, what is the immediate required action? Stop the vehicle and contact the dispatcher to obtain replacement papers or guidance before proceeding. Operating a hazmat vehicle without shipping papers is a severe violation. Next up, what must a driver do if a vehicle placarded for hazmat is disabled or stopped on a roadway? Set out warning devices, triangles, and contact the carrier and emergency services. Warning devices must be deployed to protect the public from the vehicle and its hazardous cargo. Let's continue. How must gasoline be identified on the shipping paper? UN 203, gasoline, 3, PG. This includes the required sequence: ID number, proper shipping name, hazard class, and packing group, PG. Moving on. What is the proper orientation for mounting a placard? It must be diamond-shaped and securely affixed to a square background. The diamond shape is the standard for hazmat placards to ensure quick visual identification. Time for the next question. When is a helium shipment, non-flammable gas, class 2.2, required to be placarded? When the total weight of the non-flammable gas material exceeds 1,001 pounds. Non-flammable gas is a Table 2 material, triggering placarding at the 1,001 pound threshold. Next up, what must be on the package when transporting radioactive materials? The weight of the material, the radiation activity level, and the transport index, TI. The transport index is a number used to control radiation exposure during transport. Let's continue. When are Class 1 explosives materials permitted to be transported in the same vehicle? Only if they're compatible as specified in the HMR, Hazardous Materials Regulations. Explosives are divided into compatibility groups, and mixing incompatible groups is forbidden. That wraps up our practice session for the North Carolina Hazmat Practice Test. Keep reviewing this material, and you'll be ready for your test.